Welcome back, everyone, to another ZeroK Expedition match. I'm your host, Dominic, or Shadowfury, whichever you prefer. Last request that I've had outstanding, it is going to be Rhinehard, going for tanks, against Danielsonx, Danielsonx, going for Rovers. Danielsonx. Danielsonx. It is Danielson. X's are usually silent in names. Actually, not really, but weirdly extraneous X's are generally silent. So I declare. Anyway, Rhinehard starting out with Kodachis because that is how you start out with tanks. And Danielsonx going for Mason Scorcher because that's... Well, Mason Scorcher Dart usually is how you start out with Rovers, though they have immediately gone for Fencer Ripper. Like, after the scouting Rovers, they got Fencer Ripper, and that is... That's gonna be interesting. Like, Fencer Ripper as a baseline for your army is pretty solid on a map like this. The only downside is you do kind of sack the Raider game. But essentially you're playing for a slower push around the map. I mean, it's tricky. You gotta still make sure you're expanding quickly enough. So far, though, Danielsonx is expanding faster than Rhinehard. And actually is managing to... Oh, wait. Hang on. Which version of Kodachis are these? These are the ones that fire a bunch. Okay. We're still in the same version. What version are we on anyway? Oh, 12. Yeah, okay, this is the version that was used in the tournament. Okay, then, yeah, nothing's really changed. Kodachis got changed fairly recently, but not so recently. This is still the rapid fire Kodachi. And that is that. Well, Danielsonx still to expand at the same time, though Kodachi is finally in. Fortunately, this is where darts come in really handy. And there are no darts here for Danielsonx. But yeah, Dart Scorcher is especially good against Kodachis. Because it slows down the Kodachis, and that kills their one advantage. Allowing the Scorchers to get in and just rip them to shreds. The darts will die, but as long as they get the slow beam off, then it was worth it. Otherwise, you have Kodachis literally running circles around stuff in order to avoid your Scorchers, and, well, that is how you lose quickly. Danielsonx not even able to get rid of the Kodachi, although it looks like the Kodachi cannot escape. Yeah, it's done. Rhinehard gone up here. It looks like there's waiting for the healing. That's true. The regeneration does mean the Kodachi could theoretically escape eventually. Not sure if Danielsonx realizes they could just have followed it and there was nowhere it could go, but they didn't, so now the Kodachi has a chance to repair. Same time, more Kodachis coming in here from Rhinehard, and that's just their build. Pure Kodachi spam. On the other hand, Fencer Ripper is now online for Danielsonx. Kodachi is... Yeah, it's dead. It's trying, but it is dead. And it's gone down. I mean, that Scorcher... Could it have gone closer? Yeah, it could have gone close. It could have gone closer. Yeah, it could have gone closer. Not sure if Danielsonx realizes that Scorchers do more damage up close. They must. I mean, that's a pretty basic... No, I guess it's not that obvious. But they're clearly experienced, so I'd expect they'd have picked that up at some point. But yeah, Scorchers deal more damage when they're close up. Yeah, I haven't... People in chat talking about how fun Dart Scorch versus Kodachi was actually when Kodachis weren't firing twice a second. But yeah, I mean, Kodachis were pretty weak there. I think the problem was that tanks didn't have much to work with, like in terms of the early game. And now it's maybe a bit overtuned. I feel like it could stand to be adjusted a bit. I don't really know in what way. Problem is that Kodachis are the raider for the tank factory. There really aren't any other options, so that's tough. Like, tanks are just very expensive. I could see maybe tweaking it so the Kodachis are maybe a touch weaker, or maybe fire a bit less frequently. Like, before they fire almost never and rely entirely on afterburn. Now they might fire a bit too frequently. Like, I mean, even I think having their fire rate would still be more than enough to keep them a very legitimate threat. Oh, people are talking. Okay, people in chat are talking about different names for unit compositions and how they need to be a portmanteau, like Thug Law with Thug and Outlaw, or I guess Fence Ripper for Fencer and. Oh, that's that's a good one. I like that one. So yeah, Danielsonx going for a Fence Ripper build. So with the Fence Ripper build against Coda Spam, that's, I still think, in the advantage of the Fence Rippers. Ravager as well coming in there. Oh, right, people pointing out the fact that Blitz used to be the primary raider. That's fair, but Blitz is 300. I mean, unless you change this that Blitz is just cheap, like 200 and does maybe less damage or less stun or something. And then Kodachi is 180. So Blitz is still a threat against lone mexes, but isn't as much, isn't so expensive that it's almost impossible to get any number of. Oh, okay. Time for nothing asking me about the Switch Natrix, the Snitch Dominatrix combo. I mean, for one thing, you need two factors for that. So in a 2v2, I could see it. In a 1v1, that's a lot of work to set up. And the second, I don't know. You can't really beat Iris Snitch. Like, Iris and Snitch, you can't beat that. Really, there's nothing around that. I mean, unless you had Snitch and Natrix, you had the Snitches in front with Iris cover to get them to blow stuff up, and then the Dominatrix comes in and, like, takes over the factory or super heavy units or whatever that the Snitch can't efficiently get rid of. But that's, all again, a lot of work to set up. Iris, at least you can just build, or you can build the Cornea. Now, if you go in here, you have... Oops. Ah. You have... Where's Cornea? Cornea. That's not in there. It's under Special. Where's Cornea? Oh, yeah. Yeah, right here in a Special. So, anyone can build a Cornea, which can morph into an Iris. Asking about Duck Head, says Duck and Bulk Head. I'm not sure. I think Archer Head is really viable. I think Duck Head doesn't really deal with the weaknesses of Archer Head. I think it exacerbates them, because I think Rippers are going to do well against Archer Head. But Archers at least have some chance of dealing with, like, Rippers and stuff like that, which would... Oh, sorry, Bulk Heads get rid of the Rippers. Sorry, the Ravagers. Sorry, the Fencers! Bulk Heads get rid of the Fencers. The Archers kind of help, sort of. Duck Head, however, is a bit weaker. The Rippers would tear to shreds. Doesn't really cover the weaknesses. Oh! Dying from pointing out the Snitch and Natrix was a total joke because the Snitches would just team kill the dummies. Yeah, that's... I mean, on top of the fact that it's a really difficult thing to set up, it's also, yeah, like Dying Friend just pointed out there that it was a joke. It is totally useless. Anyway, back to the game, though. We've kind of missing the fact that Rhinehard has been expanding rapidly along the map, and they have built radar. Actually, pretty regularly built radar. They have a commander up front, they have radar over here, they have radar around back, I think. Or it's just the one? No, they got two. They have to have two. Yeah, there's one over here, too. Hey, Rhinehard did the thing they critique other players about. Awesome. Although, to be fair, Danielson's also building radar, which is just good. I mean, it's good to have, you know, information. That helps you win. So right now, Danielsonx kind of behind. It's 10 metal per second, but 30 to 50. Actually, it's 20 metal per second. Significant, but of course, tanks do need more metal to be viable in the first place. So it's kind of a tough call. I think Danielsonx is going to be fine for the time being. Gonna want to rebuild this metal extractor, and probably gonna want to expand over the north here. See if they can take out the metal extractor over here. Like, seriously, send this Fence Ripper force over here, take this out, maybe take this out as well. Start building up your own expansion, because that should be Danielson's territory. Like, over the south, Rhinehard's very well set up there. I mean, they have rocket launcher, they have a radar jammer as well, which makes it harder for them to be dealt with. Oh, really? Oh, yeah! Yeah, they're on radar, but they're totally unseen because of the radar jammer. Good stuff. Very effective against artillery. Or when artillery is in play, but then again, the Stinger is still targetable. Like, the Stinger is still in sight. As a result, the rest of the units do get hit a little bit, but it's not that bad. However, the north side, there it is. Fencers taking out the Mexes, Rippers as support, and that should be enough to at least give the Mason room to build, reclaim, put Danielson back in a good position, though both players are not doing great. I mean, Danielson, they got 3 there. And Rhinehard, they're getting a plate up, but they only have 2, they only have 30 metal per second going in here. They need another caretaker on top of the plate. They want to have any chance of building at a reasonable pace. Or at least using their metal, I should say, at a reasonable pace. They can build just fine, it's just they have loads of metal accessing. Danielson, on the other hand, despite an economic disadvantage, is actually doing fine production-wise just because of the fact that they have been able to use their metal more efficiently. Still, though, at some point Rhinehard will be able to get that up, and that will be bad. Because, yeah, once Rhinehard gets that... No, I guess not. I don't know. Alright, I can do that for fast movement. Anyway, once Rhinehard gets that, it'll be different. But for now, Rhinehard is having to deal with quite a lot of fencers. And the Minotaurs really don't have a lot of room to move and do anything effective in. Fence Ripper with Ravager support. And the north side has been... There we go. There is that metal extractor being taken and a few more. Come on, take them over to the south. You need as many metal extractors as you can get. Doesn't matter if they die. If they last for more than 45 seconds, they paid for themselves. Well, on a +2 metal per second expansion point. And at this point, there's nothing attacking in the north, so there's no reason to worry about it. Just build, reclaim. I don't know, Danielson's... I mean, we're talking gold players here, so yeah, that is the point where oftentimes multitasking is not the strongest skill. Like, multitasking is tough. There's a lot going on in this game. I'm not going to harp too much on it because there is a lot you have to keep track of when playing any RTS, but ZeroK, usually there's just so much going on that very little structure around it. Like, a lot of stuff is very fluid in the way that units are positioned, in the way that reclaim is set up, and how you're expanding or setting defenses or worrying about where defenses are coming from, or where defenses need to be, rather, because where attacks are coming from. So it's understandable that multitasking is a challenge, because multitasking is a challenge. There's no reason to downplay that. It is a difficult part of the game. That was one thing I would say for Danielson if they're watching this. Yeah, like, keep an eye on metal extractors that are open. Granted, now, no, this is the Minotaurs coming in and taking them out. Though, to be fair, Rhinehard actually is about even. Looks like they were taking quite a bit off reclaim. Now they're about even. Both players have the same production capacity. Those Cyclops coming in here for Rhinehard, alongside all the Minotaurs, while at the same time, back for... Okay, we're getting Impalers. Impalers on top of Fence Ripper. Actually, Badgers as well. Very, very mixed composition here. Not sure if Danielson is choosing not to go for Dommies or doesn't quite realize Dommies are a really strong answer against tanks, because Dommies are a really strong answer against tanks. Pretty much anyone playing tanks has wondered, how in the world do I deal with these Dominatrices? Because, you know, single heavy units that last for a while, so you can damage them a bit and then capture them when they're weakened. Kind of like Pokemon, I guess. And, well, kind of, because that's not quite how that works. But the thing is that there's also, they're really tough to deal with direct fire. On the other hand, can't really fault the composition. It is working. That was remarkably efficient as a way of getting rid of all those units. Also, yes, for the record, for those of you wondering why I made that Pokemon comment about being not quite about damage, because in Pokemon, capture rate is mildly affected by damage, but most affected by status effects. Sleep or paralysis is going to be way more effective than bringing your opponent, or bringing the Pokemon down to the red bar. It's actually kind of surprising, and something that I had to look up. Anyhow, total aside, but for those of you who ever play Pokemon games, useful knowledge, Danielson actually doing a great job opening up the north side. They should be able to rebuild metal extractors here. They've got at least one of them queued. Also, 1.2k reclaim. Actually, maybe don't build the metal extractor quite yet. Just send another Mason up there and reclaim a bunch. Like 45 metal per second on that alone. Actually, you got several idle Masons. Just send all of them. Sheesh. You got loads here. So I don't really see how this is going to be that efficient of a use of... just reclaim! Reclaim! So much reclaim! I don't think this thing I have here is default, to be honest. But there's like so much reclaim! Just get it! Reclaim it all! I mean, Danielson is already at an economic advantage, but there's no point in throwing away an advantage instead of leaning into it. But hey, I gotta say, I mean, people pointing in the chat, it's a very fun MU. Yeah, it is a very fun matchup. Gotta point out that Otago is a map that isn't that flat. I was pointing out in the tournament on last Saturday, week 3, that you have Red Comet and Cobalt Dream that really make tanks very strong because they can just expand all over the place. Otago is not quite like that. The hills and ridges and just general choke points really stop tanks from swarming everywhere, and especially Kodachi from swarming everywhere. It makes it a lot easier to build up more slowly because you really don't have a massive metal disadvantage for the stuff that you can more easily defend. You can set up defenses around choke points, so you don't have to worry about having to win the micro game by spreading in all directions. And as a result, the Rovers do have a bit of a shot here because they can keep pace with the economy. They don't have to try to do Scorch or Dart against Kodachis for as strong as Kodachis are. They can push the game past the Raider phase without having to worry too much about economy because, you know, they can just take advantage of choke points. Yeah, the widget, the reclaim widget, I'm not going to show it because it requires pausing the game. But yeah, I think in settings interface. Like settings interface economy or something like that. Oh wait, I don't want to pause the game. Settings interface. Why is this? That's not right. Oh, simple settings are on. Right, I've turned simple settings off. Settings interface reclaim highlight toggle field summary. That's how you do it. Because that is an extremely useful tool for figuring out what exactly is going on here when it comes to reclaim. Because if you know, oh, there's 1,500 reclaim, or 1,500 metal reclaim, 1,600 metal reclaim here. That is extremely useful knowledge. Although I am glad Danielsonx is at least building caretakers in the area. I just wish they'd use these masons to reclaim. Because they're sitting here idle, and they could have been queued to reclaim this entire time. But I kind of, honestly... Oh no, Danielsonx is going for repeat pulse. But I would say, honestly, I think Danielsonx might be a StarCraft player who's come in here and isn't quite sure how to make ZeroK work at its best because some of these habits. But then it's like, no, it's just they haven't gotten used to queuing it. Sorry, not to rag on StarCraft. It's just that you don't have repeat build in that game, so it's easy to, when you play ZeroK, if you've played a lot of StarCraft, to get in the habit, and I've done this before myself, get in the habit of not using repeat build, not realizing that it's totally worth using repeat build, or forgetting just how much you can queue. But still, Danielsonx does have the caretakers. They are doing a really good job when it comes to reclaim. So they have gotten reclaim, if nothing else. Maybe not with the Masons, but the Masons are at least... No, they're not doing nothing. They could just take all this stuff here. A lot of metal that could be taken. So again, a lot of this reclaim coming in here. Danielsonx's commander is under some threat. The Cyclops being a real problem here. Now the Locust... Ooh, right, gunship switch coming in. Did I not notice that? No, I didn't. Where's the gunship land? Ah, proxy gunship. Tricky. Very tricky. Danielsonx's commander is dead. Locust coming in. Yeah, the Locust, they've got it. Dead to rights. Commander is down. This base is down. I think Rhinehard might have been able to crack open Danielsonx's defenses doing that. Yeah, it's a shame Danielsonx was not either attacking at the same time or building up iron, or both, really. Again, the Masons could go and just reclaim and build mexes behind this attacking force. This attacking force will have no problem breaking down the door here. Rhinehard's actually wide open after that. In fact, this would be a really effective counterattack for the commander death. Right. See how it goes, but yeah, I am actually pretty intrigued to see what's going to happen with this. Because if this works, then Danielsonx could keep the game really in their favor. And why is the game freezing up? Ah! Oh, right, that's... Okay, why is my fan not... Hang on, one sec. Sorry, I need to... Why aren't you pausing? Okay, I'm sorry. This is... I need to deal with some stuff. Just a second. Why am I not getting my fans running? Sometimes I think the factory that made my GPU wants it to burn itself out. Oh. No, I just set it up improperly. All right, there we go. That should fix the stuttering issues that were coming up. And let's continue. Sorry about that. Hopefully that should fix the issues with the stuttering, and then we can keep going. So yeah. As it stands, though, it is, a very tough situation. The Ogre's going to go down with the Cyclops. That's the real threat. But then again, the Cyclops has to contend with a lot of units coming in, and it's an anti-heavy unit. It's meant to get rid of a single unit at a time. And against Rovers, that's not the best idea. In fact, that is a terrible idea. And ultimately will just be a metal donation for very little loss. Same time, though, nothing was defended over the north. Danielsonx is just able to completely ride in. No resistance whatsoever. No defenses whatsoever. I think this might be the end of the factories. Certainly the end of the caretakers. They're done. Possibly the welders as well. Yeah, the welders down. The factory might go down. The other factory might soon follow. Same time, though, Locust coming in, trying to go for a base trade, and they should be able to succeed. Getting rid of the caretakers at the very least. The factory is a little bit tricky, but there's not a whole lot of anti-air in the process. Still, the plate is down, the caretakers are down, so Rhinehard has lost their main production, at least there. They still have the gunship plant, the proxy gunship plant, which is taking advantage of all this, while at the same time, they've taken out Danielson's ability to produce anything, so the base trade is ultimately in favor of Rhinehard. They lost their main base, but they still have this proxy gunship plant, which is saving the day for them. And Rhinehard has no real way of taking this back, although they do have another rover factory being built up over to the north. It's going to take about 30 seconds, and I really hope they get some crashers, because they need to get... all they're dealing with now is gunships. That is the only thing being built is gunships. Now, to be fair, there's a lot of units around the back here that can take out all of Rhinehard's existing production facilities. And then from there, we should... I mean, a little tricky, but Danielsonx would be able to go over to the north and basically just take everything along here. So if that is done, that is going to be a really good way for Danielsonx to get back in the game. After losing their entire production facility, entire production infrastructure. Though Danielsonx would be nice if they actually build something, but yeah. You can queue while the building is under construction. You don't have to wait until it's done. Or fairly certain you can anyway. Like, I'm almost certain you can queue up units when it's a nanoframe. And that's fine. I mean, still, needs a few more caretakers. Probably some razors, honestly. The crashers are being built, that's good. But maybe a few razors or something, because gunships are going to be the main threat going forward. I mean, granted, Danielsonx doesn't know that, but they could probably figure they got rid of the tank factory. Wasn't any cheap way of making more tanks. Gunships are a threat that has been assaulting them multiple times. So it would stand to reason that, yeah, you'd want to have that. But yeah, crashers are up. Danielson's got a lot. I mean, they have a lot of metal income. Why are they not using it? Sorry, it just really frustrates me when people aren't using, when people have factories that are idle, because there's no excuse for that in ZeroK. Between repeat build and, again, the fact that I'm pretty sure you can pre-queue construction, you don't even have to be paying attention. Like, when you're doing the orders to set up the construction, you can do all that. And actually, the repeat build is something you can set to be on by default. Which I do, personally, actually. It's something you can set in the unit states settings. However, Danielson's still doing well. It's just they aren't using the metal. Oh, you're wasting all of this reclaim. What are you even looking at? No, they still aren't. Why are they not building? Oh, I hope they aren't building because they think they don't have metal because they have no storage. They have metal. They had metal the entire time. If it turns out Danielsonx is a StarCraft player who just started playing ZeroK, I will not be surprised. Like, they're playing this game as if they didn't have... useful repeat queue. If they do turn on the repeat queue, but it's like I don't know. There's a lot of UI conveniences they aren't using that would really help their play. And I know I'm harping on it, but it's like, it's so many little things that are just, that would be, like, it's so close. They're doing a lot of things right, and it's just the things they aren't doing are really killing them. At the same time, though, Rhinehard's commander coming in along into Danielson's base. Oh yeah, no, they have no storage. Sorry, people went in the chat about the reclaiming. Yeah, the reclaiming without storage was not wise, but again, I expect... No, Danielson, no, they must know that they don't need storage. I don't know why they... I don't know. It's weird they didn't automatically build. Like, yeah, you can build storage eventually. It's not a big deal. Just build everything else that you need. I don't know. I am curious what Danielson is thinking and why they aren't doing things like going for reclaim around the map, or... Oops. Like, why they aren't going for reclaim around the map, or why they aren't going for rebuild. I mean, rebuilding metal extractors is something that a lot of players don't do. I always say it's the thing that separates the good players from the great players is rebuilding metal extractors. But reclaim, it's like, it's all there. Your workers are idle. The reclaim is there. The army is already kind of in place to defend. I don't know. Just frustrating. It's frustrating because, again, there's no reason not to. You can queue it up. It's real easy. But, yeah, as it stands, they're not really set up for that. Or they haven't really been doing that. Well, at any rate, Rhinehard looks to be snatching victory from the jaws of defeat, as it were. I mean, there's not a whole lot threatening them, honestly. Surprisingly, not very many crashers, despite the fact that everything has been gunships. Are they scouting? They have some radar, but they aren't scouting. I don't know. I'd have turned one of those radars into a Sparrow and then just send it around the map to see if you can find Rhinehard's construction. Because if they see, oh, it's just gunships, well, then you can go heavy on the crashers. Have a bit of a light ground force to deal with ground defenses and mexes, but take care of everything using crashers and then be done with it. Like, this is kind of unfortunate. There's just a lack of scouting is meaning that Danielson is losing a game that they could win. I don't know. There's no reason for that. I'm being overly critical, but yeah, it's still there's a lot that Danielson could do to deal with that, and they just haven't been. Because again, I guess they don't realize they can do it. Like, they can get away with just going heavy anti-air. There's nothing on the ground. They've already taken care of most of Rhinehard's production facilities and expansion facilities. There's not a whole lot Rhinehard has except these locusts. So building like half a dozen crashers and just having them. Not to mention trying to get stuff like half a dozen crashers, gets rid of the locusts. Once the locusts are gone, then you can really start rebuilding everything. Not to mention all the reclaim that's available, because there's still how many idle workers are there? Yeah, well, the advantages of winning them in the game because there's no anti-air. Fencers are flex AA, but they're not dedicated. Man, that's the problem with locusts. So you need to have anti-air, but again, it's just, I think Danielson is trying to kind of playing on autopilot, thinking, oh, I need to make sure I have a good ground force for the ground switch. But it's like the ground switch only matters if your opponent actually has two factories. Like, that's when the ground switch matters. Rhinehard has the one factory. They're not building a second one. They have some ground units, but again, not very many, and the crashers would do wonders at actually defending against them. Not to mention, Danielson's lost all their metal extractors thanks to not having enough anti-air to actually work with. Oh, and another Dami going down. I mean, the Damis kind of make sense for anti-tank, but again, that's not the main concern. The main concern at this point is gunships. I mean, it's too late now. It's too far gone. Danielson simply doesn't have the economy. They haven't been focusing their production well enough. They're just finally getting crashers. They had them on queue later on, but it's like, Again, like I said in the last game, a lot of it, I mean, granted, that wasn't the person who made that mistake won, but still, a lot of it comes down to timing. And Rhinehard just, I mean, they were able to build up all this time, and if there had been more crashes earlier on, Danielson could have saved their metal extractors and then wouldn't have been in this position where they're done. They've lost the game. That's it. Game over. GG. But Danielson, if you're watching this, go into settings, what is it? Settings, unit behavior, default states, and every factory turn on repeat. I think you'll be able to turn on repeat on everything? I'm not sure. Actually, enable auto assist is also wise. But yeah, there's no enable repeat on everything, but yeah, that is... Click enable auto assist and then go through the factories and just repeat on all of them. There's no reason not to have both of those things on. Like, if you need to change your composition, just have a clear Q hotkey. But yeah, ultimately, and the other thing is scout. Well, actually, the other thing is reclaim. Always, always, always reclaim. But then also scout. Like, if your opponent, if you damaged a lot of your opponent and you're not quite sure what's left, send some sparrows around the map. They're cheap, like 200 metal each. Send some sparrows, figure out what's going on. Like, one sparrow around here would have been enough to see what was happening. That was just gunship plant. Not to mention, you know, at that point, half a dozen crashes would have been wise anyway. There were a lot of locusts. That's what destroyed the base. Although, to be fair, scouting would have spotted that earlier, but that's fine. I mean, proxy gunship happens. It's just afterwards, like, okay, you know proxy gunship has happened. You can deal with it. Because otherwise, Danielson was really close in terms of metal income, metal usage. Unfortunately, high in metal excess near the end because they didn't build units when they had the chance. Better in army value as well. Like, they're doing really well. They just lost out on actually getting... They lost out on knowing what to do. There's a great assault here getting rid of the base. Rhinehard responded well as well. And unfortunately, the rebuild... Rhinehard did have the gunship plant. Danielson, you know, could have figured, well, there's the gunship plant. I want to get some anti-air and then worry about ground force. Like, I want to get some anti-air. I've got decent ground forces, but I want to get some anti-air. And then, you know, use the ground force to deal with whatever stragglers there are on the ground. And then the anti-air to get rid of the locust to stop any of this from happening. Or build Razor, that's another good option. Or Threshers, maybe. Or hell, even Stardusts. Actually, how much are Threshers? Can't remember. No. How much are Threshers? Threshers are 450 each. Razors are 280. Razors are 280. And the Hacksaws would have been not the best option there. But yeah, Razor or Thresher. Or maybe Stardust even. Would have been really useful to get rid of the locusts. But yeah, unfortunately that wasn't there. And yeah, I don't know. Reclaim was a big part of it. There wasn't any reclaim taken. Danielson could have had a 20-30 metal per second advantage for the majority of the game. Just with reclaim. Had they been using their constructors to reclaim. Oh, Tough Indigo in chat pointing out that Danielson might have just been tilted after the gunship switch, which makes sense. Yeah, that I could see that. That's absolutely true. Yeah, tilt is a thing. Tilt is a very real thing. And it is easy in this game to feel like, I did thing, I should win. Like, I did this particular move, I should win. And it's like, well, I can see why you feel that. That's understandable. But that's not how the game works. But it is understandable. Like, it makes sense why you would feel that way. It just isn't how the game is built. So, yeah, unfortunately, that is how a game goes. So, yeah. Anyway, with that is all the requests that I had for before the tournament, and actually managed to get through them. So, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully it helped some way or another. And have a good night, everyone.